Michael Popok with a Legal AF hot take. Wall Street edition. It's one thing for Donald Trump to brag on social media about him being some sort of candidate for president or attack a judge or a judge's daughter. That doesn't get him into trouble unless he violates a gag order, which he does on a regular basis. But start bragging about your company's fortunes and how successful your company is when you're now a publicly traded company on a stock exchange like NASDAQ and regulated by the Securities and Exchange Commission, then you've moved into another world of perhaps using manipulative and deceptive devices to prop up the stock proposition, the value of the stock, that's inconsistent with the fundamental economics of that company. We call that a pump and dump scheme. You pump up the stock in terms of touting it in a way that's inappropriate under securities laws. You say it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. You say all of the, let's use Truth Social for a minute. You say you have more users than you do. You say the platform is primed to make a lot of money. You say things that are forward-looking in statements about finances that prove to be untrue. And you try to wallpaper over the true financials of your company by making statements on social media or in other places that you intend the investing public to rely upon. Since Donald Trump doesn't know the lines between truth and fiction, right? Truth and fantasy, lying and telling the truth, pumping up a stock and making statements on social media, he's probably just crossed the line. What am I talking about? Let's talk about him bragging about Truth Social and the Trump Media and Technology Group, which trades under his own initials. DJT, yes, you too can own a piece of a presidential candidate, whether you're foreign or domestic. He's up for sale on NASDAQ and on the stock market. But here, Donald Trump, there's the truth of the actual, truthful, required, factual details about a company's performance that are required by the securities laws, including what we call the 1933 Act and the 1934 Act, and regulations around those things that regulate the securities market to make it an even playing field, regulated by the Securities and Exchange Commission. And there you have to reveal in filings like what we call the 8K or the 10Q or the 10K, you have to reveal performance about your company in real time with audited financial statements with actual truthful information that the investing public can rely on. And if you lie in there, or if you don't tell the whole truth, you can be sued for securities fraud. You can be sued for securities fraud. And if you happen to be a Delaware corporation like Trump's company, you can be sued in Delaware in the Chancery Court for fraud on the investing market in violating these securities laws that I just talked about. And there are plenty of cases, and you can bring what's called a 10b-5 class action against somebody like Donald Trump because he's pumped up the value of the stock as high as it will go, when in reality he was lying about its finances. So just this week, to try to wallpaper over some bad, required, compelled financial data that the Trump company had to reveal, particularly that they made less than $4 million in revenue and had $53 million in loss. For those that don't follow Wall Street, that's a bad thing. Donald Trump instead bragged on social media in some rants about how great the platform was doing in the face of these factual details, at least in his own opinion. Well, now we've crossed the line from opinion into pumping and dumping into manipulative and deceptive practices, which I will tell you as a former Wall Street lawyer at one point in my career, that is a no-no and will subject you to both SEC enforcement proceedings, fines, and the like, as well as class action lawsuits. It may be the class action lawyers, many of which are in Delaware, all of which are amazing, that may finally bring Donald Trump down the way they brought Elon Musk down in Twitter. In his long-winded ranting on Truth Social, he said, and this is in the face of after his company filed and revealed to the investing public in the 8K required report about how dire the finances were, that this company was teetering on the edge of bankruptcy, that its own audited financials and its auditors were saying they don't know how this company is going to survive another day and if it's really ever going to be a going concern. That's a problem. What you can't do is say, ignore all of that. Ignore all of those facts. Let me give you my opinion about how great this company is. That's a manipulative and deceptive act that the SEC has trouble with. This is the statements by Donald Trump after the $4 million in revenue and $53 million of loss came out. Quote, I think truth is amazing. Let's stop right there. I think truth is amazing too. As a concept, as a moral concept. It's just that Donald Trump is allergic to the truth. But there he's referring, I jest, he was referring to his media platform. I think truth is amazing, all in caps. First of all, it is a very solid, having over $200 million in cash and zero debt. Right. The cash came from the sale of the stock. The question for the stock exchanges and the Securities and Exchange Commission is, how is the underlying company doing? Not how much money you made from the stock market, separating gullible investors from their money. I mean, that stock has already dropped to about $40 or $42 a share. I mean, yes, it was up near $60. Everybody was all excited. And Donald Trump was trying to, what? Pump the stock up so that he can later dump it 6 months from now when he can. But to declare there's $200 million in cash and zero debt, right? There's barely any operations of the company. It barely has 5 million active users against billions of active users in his competitor sites like Facebook and Twitter and the like. So again, he's skirting the issue about the underlying business model. There is no underlying business model. So you're left with Donald Trump's bleeding, B-L-E-E-T-I-N-G, and bleeding in social media. He goes on to say in social media, again, violating SEC rules. More importantly, it is the primary way I get the word out, and for better or worse, people want to hear what I have to say, perhaps according to excerpts, more than anyone else in the world. And then he bragged about his TV ratings and about fake news and the truth and all of that. Well, that rant is his way to distract from, as he always does, a bad news cycle. Right? He doesn't like the 8K, the facts about the poor performance of the company, that his auditors have declared that this company is teetering on the edge of bankruptcy and they can't really certify his audited financials, and that it's making very little money and likely won't be around much longer, much like all the other Trump business ventures that he's ever touched, all having gone bankrupt, belly up, closed their doors, had to file for bankruptcy and or had to enter into consent agreements with attorney generals or the FTC about improper and fraudulent operation. That's the Trump world that people are investing in. And that's the difference. If Donald Trump wants to exercise his First Amendment right, having nothing to do with the securities laws, and tell people, hey, everybody, I just invested my money in this great new company. Let me tell you all about it. Okay. But now you've crossed the line because he's part of the issuer. He's part of the operator of the business. And you can't just say, ignore those stubborn facts over there in our 8K filing and all the things we had to disclose about how terrible the business is. Just listen to me. The company's great. We got lots of cash. It's all from you, investing public. It's from the sale of the stock, right? Talk about a circular reasoning, the circle of life for Donald Trump. We made a lot of money selling the stock to you, right? And now we're not making any money with the underlying business model, but we have a lot of money because we sold the stock to you. That's his argument. And the problem with that is it violates the securities laws, which should come as no surprise to anybody. Is anybody shocked by this hot take that Donald Trump has done something in getting on his social media that has potentially or will have violated the securities laws related to a company? I mean, this is his problem. He'd rather not go public. Because he has to go public, then he's got to have audited financials. He's got to make these regular disclosures to the investing community and to the stakeholders out there. He doesn't want to do that. He's got to have like a real board of directors, independent board of directors, of which his aren't really. And then they're all subject to director and officer insurance that they'll get from some company. They're all subject to liability and exposure for suits. Not just the Securities and Exchange Commission investigations, but of course, these giant billion-dollar civil fraud, securities fraud cases that are brought inevitably in Delaware against companies like Donald Trump. And they'll sue. I am telling you that this stock drop that has already happened from the 60s down to the 40s, they are already rubbing their hands in glee in the Delaware plaintiffs bar. And they're going to bring a case. They're shopping. I assure you, they are shopping for it right now. They have ways to find investors who are willing to be the lead plaintiff because they lost money. They own one share of Truth Social. They lost $12 because Donald Trump pumped and dumped. And they're going to sue Donald Trump. They're going to sue the board. They're going to sue the independent directors. They're going to sue for the on behalf of all of the shareholders, right? Some of which can opt out if they want. All the shareholders who bought will be part of that class, and then they'll go and sue, and they'll get tens of, if not hundreds of millions of dollars in legal fees paid to them, and they'll take down Donald Trump. It'll be the plaintiff's bar that eventually gets Donald Trump if the criminal justice system doesn't. And I have a background, as people know. I was a deputy general counsel for a Wall Street firm before I went back to private practice, and then came here on the MeidasTouch network doing legal and political analysis. This is my home cooking. And so I wanted to bring it to you in a way that I think only I can, right here on the MeidasTouch network, exclusively here. And on we have a show. You might have heard of it. It's called Legal AF. And if you come join us on Wednesdays and Saturdays on the MeidasTouch network on this YouTube channel, and then on audio podcast platforms of your choice, you'll know why we call it Legal AF. We curate the best 5 stories at the intersection of law and politics. We bring it to you here with lawyers who know what they're talking about at the intersection of law and politics. How refreshing. And if you like this kind of hot take, and I do them about every day, sometimes 2 or 3 times a day, then give me a thumbs up and interact with the content. That's how you signal to the algorithmic gods you like this content. They'll send you more of it. I promise you. You'll get 2 helpings. So until my next hot take, until my next Legal AF, this is Michael Popok reporting. Heary, heary, Legal AF Law Breakdown is now in session. Go beyond the headlines and get a deep dive into the important legal concepts you need to know, and we discuss every day on Legal AF. Exclusive content you won't find anywhere else, all for the price of a couple of cups of coffee. Join us at patreon.com/legalaf. That's patreon.com/legalaf.